What are the images that have influenced you? What are the images that brought you to see and understand photography, to feel your love for the medium, and to know your path as an image maker? Today, the Crit House MyFIVE series continues as we look into the creative influences of photographers, artists, and photo professionals. Tarisse Iriarte is an independent art curator, and today she discusses her 5 images. They come from Gordon Parks, Hiram Mirastani, Joselyn Ortiz, Malik C and Marilyn Nance. T, thanks for joining us on the Crit House.
Thank you so very much for having me, Jeff. I appreciate you.
You know, one of the things that that I love about this program is being able to talk to photographic people. Most of the people we talk to are photographers. You know, they're in that sort of silo of I'm a photographer. But you're coming to it from a different viewpoint, which is why I'm excited to sort of chat with you and to hear about your thoughts on photography and how you think of photography, because you don't come to it in the way that the typical way that the people that I talk to on this program come to it from. So, but maybe, you know, I gave you just a little tiny thumbnail about who you are. Like, who are you in the photographic world? Who are you in the artistic world?
Well, I see myself first, as you mentioned, as an activist, and the ways in which I approach this work is through a liberatory praxis. So as a curator, I want to make sure that I'm sharing stories and being diligent in the way that I'm sharing stories across the Afro-Latinx diaspora, just the African diaspora as a whole, and making sure that those works are exhibited in a very meaningful way. And so as a curator, I am collaborating and co-creating with different communities internationally. And that's usually my approach in which I bring these works to the world.
When I asked you to choose 5 photographers, and with your background and the things that you think about, what did you go through in making a decision about what those 5 images are and will be and how you talk about them?
I think one of the primary things that I thought about is the thematic framework that is basically the through line for most of these particular photos, and how influential they were to me in the ways in which I engage photography and engage how I curate photography. I am currently the curator or at large for Infocal Inc., which is a photographic organization. So this has been a journey in me being able to bring together different voices across the diaspora, in the form of print work, but it also in the form of exhibitions. And so for these particular ones, I just reflected on what stories they're telling and how they are in conversation with each other.
Well, let's take a look at your 5 images and hear what you have to say. So T, your first image is from just a legendary photographer, Gordon Parks. Tell us why you have brought Mr. Parks into this discussion.
Well, I give thanks for Gordon Parks specifically because he has been an incredible influence on the photography world as a whole, not just me as an individual and the community of photographers and documentarians that I'm surrounded by, but also my mentors have looked to him as a source of inspiration as well. People like Jamel Shabazz and others, and Marilyn Nance, and people that I will mention later on in the program. But his approach to storytelling and his approach to documenting the everyday lives of Black and brown people was so significant to me. So this particular photo is of Stokely Carmichael, who was the chairman of SNCC at the time. And this particular photo is from 1967 when Gordon Parks, who was commissioned by Life magazine to document Stokely Carmichael at the height of the Black Power movement. I see myself as a student of photography, and when I look at this photo, I was immediately thought about the way he was in his gaze with the camera, his confidence, and the way that he went about engaging with Gordon Parks over the course of 6 months. And so he basically rode around with Stokely Carmichael, who was one of my heroes, watching him do the awaken the political consciousness of people in the South and engaging them politically and organizing in an effort to get out the vote and to share what it means to embody Black power.
Well, thanks for showing. It's a great discussion. So your second image.
Similarly, this is Harlem Elario, who passed away in 2022, but he is a New Yorican photographer from Harlem Elario, as we call it, affectionately call it. And Harlem Elario is one of these documentarian photographers who documented the life of people in Spanish Harlem over the course of 60 years. And so this particular photo is a group of young men that he engaged with on 111th Street in Harlem. And he captured their joy. And that's something that I want to also highlight, because community is another one of those through lines within all of this work. Spanish Harlem, I'll just preface this by saying Spanish Harlem didn't have the reputation of a safe neighborhood or what have you, and was often demonized and criminalized. Often in communities like Spanish Harlem, you are relying upon your neighbor's babysitting your children, so there is a deep-seated sense of community there in El Barrio, which is where my parents actually met. So It's ironic, but he documented not only just the community of Spanish Harlem, but the Young Lords Party for, again, 60 years. And so I recently did a program within FOCO that highlighted a retrospective of his career over the course of those 60 years, and just celebrating the living archive that was built, the Black living archive that was built from the stories that he was able to tell from Spanish Harlem. And it's online for view, so anyone can log on and look at that public program.
So your third image from Joselyn Ortiz.
Yes, this is the work of Joselyn Ortiz, whose approach is similar to mine. And one of the primary reasons that I selected this particular photo is because Joselyn is very intentional about the way she engages with the subjects and of her photography, but how she is intentional in her approach and her methodology. She does travel quite a bit, similar to me in her work. And so this particular photo is from Nepal during the 2015 earthquake, which is a significant moment in history that severely impacted the communities of Nepal and these particular villages in Nepal. And so she was able to go in and speak to friends of this that were in this community and talk to the residents about the impact of the earthquake at the time. But I love this particular photo because of the gaze of the woman, for one, and then all of the community that is together there in this photo. I think in this photo, they are in the process of receiving humanitarian aid. And so she was able to capture the faces and of the people who have been impacted by this unfortunate disaster.
So your fourth image from
Malik C Malan, a Malian photographer he's from Mali and is an iconic photographer, from the African diaspora, who had documented for many, many years different aspects of mundane life and day-to-day life in Mali and Niger. And he passed me years ago, but this particular photo is another one that I find was very influential to me, primarily because, again, it is just captured by his eye in a very special way. Like, they are in a beach, they are enjoying life. There's not, this weight of the world on them, if that makes sense.
It does.
And he's known for also capturing evening life and using texture a lot. And this is such an intimate and important photo. And so I wanted to highlight this one and also celebrate his body of work. Malik C Malan is one of those photographers that I look to when I'm thinking about the ways in which you can use different types of techniques to tell a story, and to share a story and share a narrative.
Marilyn Nance.
Oh, yeah. So
I love how you say that. Oh, yeah.
Marilyn Nance is somebody that I really revere. And her approach to photography is really about capturing a very specific moment in time. This particular photo is important. This is of the political activist and musician Fela Kuti. So Fela Kuti is known throughout the world, again, connecting back to the diaspora. He's Nigerian, and he was a very outspoken activist against the Nigerian government. And so this is important because this particular photo was taken during the 1977 Festac, which is a African festival and celebration. But this photo was in what they call the Africa Shrine, which is one of the venues that he cultivated in order to bring different walks of life together in Nigeria. And so when she captured this moment, Fela Kuti, what happened is the Nigerian military police raided and burned down the previous venue. So it's very special to see that she was able to go to the festival and in that particular year, capture him in the Africa Shrine, alongside the other photos that she was able to document at the time, because this comes from a book. So this particular book is out now, actually, and I highly recommend people engage with it and pick it up and learn about this archival gem. So she created a book alongside a woman named Olufemi who works with the MoMA, and they collaborated to take all the photos from Festac 77 and document it in the form of a book. And so it's a photo project that talks about that moment in history and how significant it is. People like Stevie Wonder was there. People from across the diaspora came to this particular festival. But again, it was very important politically, but also socially, in bringing communities across the diaspora together. And so Marilyn Nance happened to be there during that time and documented this whole experience.
T, thank you for sharing all of these images and for the stories you tell of them. Like I said before, I mean, one of the things about having people come onto the program, the Crit House, is to talk about influences, and also, by the way, for me, who is I'm not an educated artist. I'm not educated just generally. So it gives me the opportunity to hear hear how people talk about not only photography, but art, but also their perspectives on it. And it's lovely to hear your perspectives and things that you look at as a curator, from a photographic and an artistic standpoint. That's the thing that I think most of the people who are watching this program are interested in, but also to hear that there are influences that you have as an activist and all of the other things that you're doing. So, so thank you for sharing your images here on the Crit House. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I look forward to engaging more with you in the future.
Me as well. And thank you all for watching the Crit House.